Hi, I'm Steve Weir, retired Contra Costa Clerk Recorder Registrar of Voters. Welcome to a forum of candidates running for the 9th District U.S. House of Representatives seat in this June 7th primary election. The 9th District includes Antioch, Brentwood, Oakley, Discovery Bay, Knightson, and Bethel Island. Today's forum is sponsored by the League of Women Voters of the Diablo Valley, the League of Women Voters of West Contra Costa, and the Contra Costa Elections Division. We're recording these roundtables here at the studio of Contra Costa Television with production assistance from the cities of Richmond and Walnut Creek. The candidates are Tony Amador, Catherine Nance, Alex Appleby, and Jerry McNerney, who was unable to attend. We'll begin our roundtable question with Tony Amador. Tony, the 9th District represents much of East Contra Costa County. Virtually all of the agricultural and drinking water come from the Western Delta through the Central Valley Project. That water supply is vulnerable to droughts and levee failures. What role should the federal government play in guaranteeing high-quality water for the Western Delta?
I think the role of a congressman should be high profile. They have the bully pulpit. Right now, the bully pulpit needs to be resonating a message that twin tunnels going to Southern California will ruin the estuary. This is a rare occurrence where we have environmentalists and folks that are farmers on the same page as far as opposing a boondoggle of a project that is going to cost literally billions of dollars. The estuary has such challenges as in Discovery Bay. They have the kelp that grows up there. They have to depend on the state to get rid of that. And yet you have other parts that have boating, fishing that is very, very important to the East Contra Costa County area. So it's water is a key. It's more than about drinking. It's about taking the lead as a congressional candidate and telling people we need storage. I think El Nino was a little bit of a disappointment. We didn't have as much water as we thought we were going to have in this rainy season. But I think we're still failing in the fact that we don't have leadership as far as building more storage of water. My last point would be that I think we have to look at desalination plants also. They have one on board fully working in Southern California. They have funded a second, and I think it is not cost prohibitive, but a good investment to think about having a desal plant here in Northern California.
Thank you very much. Catherine, what's the federal government's role in guaranteeing high-quality water for the Western Delta?
I think the government's role, especially as a congressman in this district, it needs to be somebody that's going to be the voice. I think we need to step forward. We need somebody that's willing to talk to and to reach out and to be a part of that conversation. Currently, that is what is lacking. We also need to make sure that we are working on building up our levees. We need to work with the Army Corps of Engineers to ensure our safety and ensure that our levees are in a place where we can continue to build and continue to grow. The points that Mr. Amador made are very valid in the fact that we need to work on water storage and we need to work on our abilities to continue to maintain our water levels here. Everybody was praying for rain and we all breathed a huge sigh of relief when we got rain and we have good snowpack, but we need to continue to maintain that storage, ensure that we have storage facilities. Also, the last budget that passed, the omnibus bill, had funding for both the twin tunnels and high-speed rail. Funding for the twin tunnels is a huge issue for me. That needs to be a conversation. It needs to be vocalized as to why that is going to destroy our delta.
Thank you very much. Alex?
Yeah, I would say the federal government, our role is to not be involved in the local area other than the voice, just like the other two candidates had mentioned. And I think that we've spent millions and millions of dollars in researching where to have more water storage, and we have spent $0 in actually creating more water storage in over a decade. So the answer is to have more storage and have that be done on a local level and not on a federal level.
Okay, and thank you very much. And now we'll start with Catherine for this. It is estimated that by 2020, nearly 70% of all jobs will require some post-secondary training. The President has proposed federal-state partnership to provide tuition-free access to community colleges. What are your thoughts on that proposal?
I'm a huge proponent of education. I think that the education system and having educated people will actually decrease crime and improve our economic value overall. I agree with the statement that we do need post-high school education. I think the one thing that is truly lacking right now is our vocational training. It is very apparent that to keep people on the workforce and on their way to success, we also need to move forward with vocational training. And that should be done both in high schools and as a secondary field. We need to move forward with people being educated. We need people to be willing to go to school and to want to continue school. Our schools are impacted here in California, and we need to make sure that that is rectified also. I agree with the idea of having college affordable and having it available to everybody, but it is not the only option for our children. Our children also need other options out there, and I believe vocational training is the way to handle that.
Thank you very much. Alex?
I agree. I think vocational training is huge. I think there is a way to have free college. It's by joining the U.S. military. That's something that I've done and was able to go through college in that fashion. I definitely think that having the federal government get out of student loans and quit providing excuse for colleges to raise their tuition tremendously because the federal government is backing student loans, I think is a problem, and that needs to be changed completely. So we need to have affordable colleges, affordable universities, and the way to do that is through the free market system.
Thank you. And Tony?
I always, when people say I'm from the government, I'm here to help you, it always worries me. And the four-letter operative word starting with F is F-R-E-E, free. And I don't think anything is free. And so when you start telling people you're going to get free college, someone has to pay for it. That's going to mean more taxes. I think we have to look at where we are spending our money now. We begin to think about vocational education, but that is at the end of the line. By the time children are in the 3rd grade, and if they can't read, we have big problems. They're the ones that drop out. They're the ones that turn to criminality. And so we have to invest at the local levels. And this partnership, if it became a true partnership, the locals would be controlling the economy and the money, not the federal government. They have come down with such programs as Common Core and have dictated different things to local jurisdictions, which has not been a winner for local government control. I think the government has to take a lead role, and if there is monies available, direct them to and let the local folks determine what is the greatest need. Certainly vocational education is something that has been ignored. We don't emphasize that in community colleges, which we should do. That is where we should be pouring money into, not graduate university schools to enhance someone's next degree. I think we have to turn out a working core of people who have an expectation of at least striving towards the middle class. Right now, they can't get out of the lower class, much less the middle class.
Thank you very much. Our next question is for Alex. What can be done to reduce the partisan gridlock that is paralyzing Congress?
Awesome. That's my favorite question, as a matter of fact. That is why I believe I am here as a libertarian candidate. Every 20 to 30 years, we have a political realignment. And the last political realignment started in the early 90s, and it's called the Parties at War, if you can imagine that. And I believe that now we're at the beginning of a new political realignment. And I don't know if that's going to be called the rise of the libertarians or just the multi-party system, where people can truly have more choices. We need more average people, more entrepreneurs and business people, more construction workers and teachers in office representing people representing real people. And I think having a third-party candidate like myself in office is the first step towards ending the gridlock. We need to work together. We're not going to agree on everything, and that's okay. Let's find the things we agree on and move forward from there.
Very good. Thank you very much. Tony?
The question is, how do we get rid of partisanship? And partisanship is because there's two established parties that govern politics in most of the states. But I think you find, if you have the right candidate in either party who runs and appeals to people who want a representative, not someone who's been afflicted with Potomac fever and quickly succumb to the goodies of Washington, D.C., and spend 10 years furthering their own personal nests. I think that that's what we have to get rid of. And so you have to have an independent-minded thinker who appeals to both parties and can get things done. I have worked for both governors and presidents of both parties, and so I have shown that I can work across party lines and with the other party to achieve success and be a true representative and not a partisan. I have gotten in trouble on my side of the aisle as well as the other side of the aisle for speaking my mind in representing the people, and that's what I will continue to do as a representative of the people.
Thank you. Catherine?
I believe what you need is somebody that's willing to look at a problem, decide what the problem is, and then move forward with a viable solution. That is what we need to do. We need to talk about real, true solutions and have somebody that is willing to be the voice and fight for what's right. That is exactly what I've done my entire career. I've been a police officer for almost 20 years. My entire job is to look at what is right, how do we solve the problem, and let's actually fix it right now. Also, it would require somebody to be an absolute person who's willing to talk to everybody and make sure that we all can understand our points of view. We don't all necessarily agree every single time, but we can all find something in each other that we agree with. And when we explain our true beliefs, our facts, and the reasons why, that is how you maintain relationships and you learn how to build on that. I think a lot of the gridlock that comes to happen is people that are unwilling to waver or change in their explanation of what they're doing, and explaining to people why you're doing things and what you truly believe in, and being that voice and being reasonable is what we need to move forward.
Thank you very much. Tony, this is for you. What type of immigration reform could you support?
The kind of immigration reform that I can support would be one that starts first with securing our borders. It would be a program that secures not just the southern border, but the northern border. It's a program that looks into why 40% of all illegal immigrants overstayed their visas. It would be a program that definitely supports and protect us from radical Islamic Muslims. It would be a program that we would not be afraid and politically correct to call them just that. And when we worry about waterboarding more than people being drowned in cages and having their heads cut off, and then people get sensitive about us screening people coming into the country, that's not the kind of leadership we want. We want people to speak up. The kind of immigration program that I would support would hold all of those things. But more importantly, we would make sure that any immigrant that comes to this country is seeking and comes in legally, seeking the American dream as my parents did. We don't want to open the doors, mass. You see many of the immigrants, the so-called immigrants that are seeking to come into our country, they're all males that we're running across the borders and we're gathering our borders. So we have a serious problem and we have to approach it thusly.
Okay, Catherine?
I agree with the need to, first off, starting with closing the borders and making sure that it is, that we are not allowing people in and they are not just coming in freely. And that I agree with the point on expired visas. That is a huge problem with the immigration system right now. The secondary issue for that is we need to provide a way and a means for identification and to criminal check the people that are here. I know that that is something that is quite easy to do. I do it on a daily basis as being a police officer. I can check to see somebody's background, their history, based on their fingerprints. We can establish work visas. We can allow people to continue their jobs and become American citizens. But we need to make sure that our borders are secure first. It is absolutely imperative that we do that before anything else.
Thank you very much. Alex?
Yeah, the libertarian stance on that would be complete open borders, but I don't think that's realistic. I do believe that we need to have a simple way to have people come over legally. I have to be tracked. Everything that I do, I'm registered here. Why not have all of our immigrants, illegal and legal, become legal immigrants and be tracked? So I think that would be a big step, having the process be simplified so that other immigrants can come here legally. And when I lived in Europe, it was as easy as driving across the border to another country and you can visit that country. So people want to come here to bring jobs, to open businesses and create jobs, and we need to allow that to happen.
Okay. And Tony?
I'm going to answer the same question
Oops,
again.
nope,
on
I'm sorry.
immigration. I would
Here we
love
go.
to
No, no.
expand on it.
My mistake. I'm entitled to 3, that's 4. Catherine, for you, what should our policy be on Syrian or Middle East refugees?
Yes, I think that we need to be vetting and securing our borders just as we have talked about before. And with Syrian refugees, it is absolutely no different. Tony made a point about seeing a flood of males that were coming into our country, and the thought that they could possibly be terrorists or bringing terrorist acts upon our country is very, very concerning for all of us here. With the Iran nuclear deal, we are giving money to Iran, which is the largest funder of state-sponsored terrorism. That is just going to continue to bring terrorists into our country. We are going to see more horrific acts as we saw in San Bernardino. It's going to continue if we don't stop it. My fear is that Syrian refugees, while many of them are displaced and need a place to go, we need to be absolutely checking to validate that these people are not terrorists. And I don't know that there is a mechanism or a system in place to do that in a manner that will be successful. And that is my biggest concern. If we are unsuccessful with that, we are allowing and opening our arms to terrorists, and that will continue to have negative impacts on our society, and we will see more incidents as we saw in San Bernardino.
Thank you very much. Alex.
I think the immigrants, the refugees coming from Syria, it's important to do a background check. I know we're limited on the things we can check, but I don't think we're as limited as the federal government is put on. So we need to, just like Catherine said, background check and vet these immigrants and make sure that they're not known terrorists. And I think keep an eye on them, make sure that they're not doing things that are suspicious or creating suspicious activity. And I would say when my ancestors came through Ellis Island, they had a health check, and I don't even think they had a background check back then. So if they're healthy and they don't have anything in their background linking them to terrorism, I say that we allow refugees to come.
And Tony.
Yes, Syrian refugees. We first have to look at the politics of Syria. We have Hafez Assad, who's in line with the Russian President Putin, who went over there and invaded and bombed, and then he pulled out of the country. You have a civil war that's going on in Syria, and this country is not responsible for that civil war. When we talk about Syrian refugees, has anybody thought of the idea of having a camp and a processing center in Syria under control of different continents, different countries? If Russia's interested in the refugees and helping them, they can take part in it just as the United States can. But there's no reason that we couldn't screen them in Syria. We don't need to bring them to this country to screen them and to see who is or may not be a terrorist. We have proof that some of the folks in Syria have actually committed genocide. They have killed Coptic Christians. And so we are at a war with radical Muslims, and we don't need to be screening them here when we can screen them in Syria.
Catherine.
Do you want me to go again?
Yes, no, there we go again. Sorry. Alex, I've got one for you. With gasoline taxes in steady decline, how can the national government assist in funding critical transportation infrastructure?
That's a good question. I would say as far as taxes go, they're in decline, but they need to decline way more. Taxation is theft. And the way that we can fund other transportation means is by raising funds specifically for those transportation needs. We shouldn't have a general fund or be using gas tax to fund a speed railway. That's just not necessary. So if the people want certain transportation methods, then those methods should be funded specifically with their own funding.
Gotcha. Tony?
I'll make it very quick. I think that when you talk about diminishing gas taxes, you've got to recall that we have these so-called carbon credits that are being directed to other projects that is truly asinine. I think that what we have to do when we talk about expending monies and saving on gas taxes and how to apply them, we ought to look at the structure of our roadways and how they're deteriorating. We're building express lanes and we're charging people money for it and creating bigger and crowded freeways rather than expanding the highways. So we have a lot to look at in that regard. As a congressman representative, I would look at whether California, who has some of the highest taxes that go to the federal government, if they are really getting their fair share of money sent back to the state of California for our highways to be brought up to par or to be maintained. But that is a question that I don't necessarily agree with, that we're diminishing the taxes, but I think the taxes are too high for using fossil fuels.
Catherine.
I think the biggest problem with the way that the gasoline taxes are and the infrastructure and roads that we have in California is the failure we've all seen in how they are being maintained and actually repaired. Simple repairs or things that should be done in a timely manner are taking excessive amounts of time. And where is that money going? Is it truly being spent the way that we deserve our roads to be treated and our infrastructure to be treated with these taxes? If you look at the other issue that we have here is the EPA and the EPA regulations that we have in California that are binding the hands of our farmers and our merchants and are really causing huge issues for us. So with the decline of taxes, of the gas tax, as you say, and supporting the infrastructure changes that we need to evaluate if this money is actually being spent in the way that it needs to be spent. I find it hard to believe that it is. I do agree that I don't think that we're getting our fair share of money back. If we are going to be taxed at a specific rate, we should be getting a fair share of that money back, as we do have a very large infrastructure and very large roadway system in California.
And last question, and we're getting close to our closing, so if I could ask you to limit it to a minute or less. Tony, what has prompted you to run for public office?
I think the desire to serve, the fact that I have something to contribute, and that my great disappointment in the last 10 years, both the Contra Costa County and San Joaquin County, where primarily the district lies, a little bit of Sacramento, have not had as efficient a representative as they could have.
Okay.
I'm very disappointed with the leadership that we've had and the things that have not changed in our district in the past 10 years. We have a vibrant, growing economy here. We have things that we can make absolutely happen in our district, and we need help, and we need a voice, and we need somebody that's willing to be that voice in Congress. I am more than willing to do that. I have done that for the last 20 years, to been the voice to make sure that we are absolutely moving forward in the manner that's best for the people of this district and the people that we represent here. I feel like it is time for a change. I feel like I can be the fresh face of this district and move forward in making sure that we have everything that we need and the help that we need to survive.
Thank you.
Go ahead.
No, go ahead and finish.
No, you said thank you. I'm done. It's
Okay.
fine.
Thank you. Alex.
Yeah, I really saw that the two parties, the Democrats and the Republicans, are moving so far apart in two different directions, and so many people don't even identify as that anymore. I think we need new perspectives, new ideas, and I was asked to run for office as the Libertarian candidate in California, and I just felt that that was an opportunity for me to serve people, and really be one of the people representing the people.
Thank you very much. Let me point out that California operates under what's called the top two primary system, and for those federal and state legislative offices, that means that the top two vote getters are the ones that will go on to the November election. So what I'd like to do right now is have each candidate will now have a minute and a half to make a closing statement. We drew lots before the show to determine the speaking order. So we'll begin with Tony.
I'd love to go first. I was told I'd go last because I drew first on the question, but I am on the air, so I'm going to take the opportunity. I want to thank the voters for watching this show. I want to thank the producers and the League of Women Voters for doing this to start with. But having said that, I think I mentioned that national security is one of our top concerns and should be a congressman's responsibility. I intend to make sure that our veterans, who I believe have been neglected and who are dying waiting for treatment, and in San Joaquin County, where they have to drive all the way across into the Bay Area or up to Mather base rather, for treatment, is a shame. I think that there was a veterans clinic that was going to be built. There's no guarantee that the money will be built. It's been 10 years since we have promised that. Our veterans need a strong voice. As far as the economy and jobs, everybody is suffering, not just in San Joaquin County, but in Contra Costa County. You may have areas that are a little bit more better off, such as Discovery Bay, as opposed to Antioch, which has probably the highest incidence of Section 8 folks who need housing. But beyond that, I'd be proud to be your representative. I'd like to represent you in Congress. I will tell you that at my young age, I am not going to make a career out of it, and I will not get Potomac fever. Thank you.
Thank you. Catherine.
Thank you for having me here today. I really appreciate this opportunity and the opportunity to be here to speak to everybody. I was born and raised in this district. I've lived here my entire life. I've spent the last almost 20 years working for my community and have a desire to absolutely give back. That was what started this journey, and that's what's going to continue this journey. My goals are very simple. It's to make this a better place, to be a voice that we don't have right now, to make sure that the needs of this community are heard in Washington. To be at the table when we have those important water talks, to be there when we talk about terror, to use my knowledge and my skill set to say, we have the ability to stop terror in a way that we're not doing it right now. We cannot fund terror in any way. We need to stop terrorists from being in our country. And we need the federal and local governments to talk, especially the national security level, to make sure that we are all safe in our own homes and our own communities. My big focus is also on education. I think that is absolutely the way that you make this district safer, that you stop the crime problem that we have, is to educate our children and to provide vocational training to ensure that they have jobs and they have the ability to move on and make a successful life for themselves. I want to represent the working class people, the middle class people that are having a hard time surviving, that are being overtaxed and overregulated. And I'm very, very happy to be here and happy to be your next congressman. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Alex.
Yeah, thank you so much. And the first thing I want to do is really just give honor to God and thank Him for opening the doors and bringing me here. Thank you for Contra Costa TV and the Women's League of Voters. I definitely appreciate the opportunity. And most importantly, the voters out there that are watching this broadcast. I stand for less government and more freedom. And I would say that's been represented throughout my life. I fought for freedom as I served in the military for 7 years. I went to 17 different countries and deployed 5 times in that time period and fought for freedom very strongly. And for the last decade as an entrepreneur and a financial advisor, I fought for the financial freedom of my clients. And I believe that financial freedom is really what this country needs. So I would be able to go in there and help balance the budget, help reduce the deficit. And I believe that I'm one of the strongest candidates here for reducing the budget, for being fiscally responsible, while at the same time wanting to end the failed war on drugs, along with many other programs that are just spending too much money. And so I've been able to network with many churches and charities in the area and different chambers of commerce, and I just feel like bringing business together, bringing a lot of other influential people as well as advisors into the mix and having a really good cabinet is going to be the key to having a successful time in office. So I'm sure if you guys have any questions about the topics discovered today, you can see my website, voteforalexappleby.com. Thank you.
Thank you. That concludes our forum of candidates running for the 9th District U.S. House of Representatives seat in the June 7 primary election. Once again, the candidates are Tony Amador, Catherine Nance, Alex Appleby, and Jerry McNerney, who was not able to attend. For more information on the candidates, visit the website votersedge.org. To view this broadcast online, go to ContraCostaTV.org. I'm Steve Weir. Thank you for watching, and remember now, vote on June 7th.